Welcome to turning Power BI into a powerhouse with Kyvos semantic layer. It's a lot of power there. It's a lot to live up to. But I am Matt Holland, Regional VP here at Kyvos, and with me is Pranay Jain, the Senior Solutions Architect. Pranay will run the demo that we'll cover here in a bit. To start things off, today is not about replacing Power BI. You're going to see what's possible with Power BI. You're going to learn about some common themes we're seeing in the market, what those challenges look like for teams that are running Power BI, and more importantly, how you can address them. And to show you that this is not just slideware, we'll also share some real world examples of how clients are doing this again in the real world. Then I'll turn things over to Pranay do a quick overview of the architecture and then get into the demo. With any time left, we'll open things up for Q&A, so feel free to use the widget to ask any questions, and we'll cover those following the demo. So with that, let's jump into it, and where the conversation typically starts, right? So clients have moved their data to the cloud, right? They've picked their BI tools. Power BI is the focus today. They've done a lot of work to get their data to the cloud, and they're ready to get to work. And Power BI, a market leader, they've continued to take share. Microsoft's made it very easy to start to use and adopt Power BI. As those use cases start to scale and get more enterprise grade, issues can start to creep in, and they typically fall into one or a combination of a few topics. First one being that semantic model, right? Semantic model, semantic layer, very trendy right now, but it's really about the business logic, right? And where it lives. And when it lives in the tool layer, those differences start to pop up as users are writing their own SQL, getting different answers to what we think is the same question. With that semantic layer, we're bringing that data, bringing that business logic, centralizing it where calculations can be controlled and curated, and then presented in business-friendly terms, right? That can mean data is grouped intuitively by category, or things are shown in plain language, not in abbreviations. So you could have an analyst who's a domain expert literally walk in on day one and understand what they're looking at and start to work. And present all of that to whatever BI front end you want to use. Again, Power BI, the focus of today. But presenting that data is only part of the story. And the other side of that coin is making it fast. And so that first and second box often go hand in hand. Right? Users want an interactive experience, which means it needs to be performant. And with a lot of solutions, getting that performance means compromising on what we're querying. With Kyvos, you don't make those compromises. You work with the data that your teams need and want to ask the questions they want to ask and run the business the way they want to run the business. The third one is a close cousin, and this is for teams that are running legacy apps, could be SSAS, Cognos TM1, Essbase. These teams, and I would put finance and retail merchant analytics at the top of that list. These teams have very specific needs when it comes to working with hierarchies and the advanced features that come with those. And a lot of the BI tools out there and a lot of the clouds even, this is a capability that's missing. And so corporate IT may say, hey, we're moving to cloud, everybody on the bus. The finance and the merchants are oftentimes either having to call a timeout or they're having to stay on legacy platforms, and IT has to support these one-off use cases on the legacy platforms, can't fully migrate off until they can find a viable cloud-based solution. So again, these are broad strokes of, again, what the common themes are that we see. So let's talk a little bit more about what this looks like specific to Power BI. When we look at scale or concurrency limits, Power BI, it will restrict the number of rows per request, the concurrency of the users, and that can lead to slowdowns or throttling, especially during peak usage. And again, you end up with teams having to make compromises, reducing the scale of the data, doing that trade-off. Those advanced analytics that I was just pointing to, Power BI models, they don't really support the complex multidimensional custom roll-up type work that certain teams absolutely require to do what they need to do. And with multidimensional, this is not something that you're going to solve by throwing more compute at it and ramping up the horsepower. So not only does the analysis become limited in some cases, but again, like with finance and the merchants, it's impossible. Now, On the performance side, Microsoft they've added Direct Lake to improve that performance. But again, you've got to be running on Fabric, hitting OneLake type sources for this to be an option. If you're not running on Azure or Fabric, then again, those options become limited. They're not open to everybody that's running Power BI. In terms of governance challenges, right? If we're not running on Direct Lake, and this is where a lot of the conversations start, is they're doing a lot of Power BI imports. They're working with data locally on the desktop. And we mentioned before, when you get into imports, you're almost always having to constrict the size of the data that you would really like to be working with. So there's that check against it, but then also you're also coding on the desktop. So again, teams think they're asking the same question. They code it a little bit differently. They get different answers. This creates a lot of churn and swirl and backtracking, especially when we're in the boardroom and it doesn't match, and it's creating confusion and delay, right? And I'm sure there's a couple of folks on the call that would get that reference. But again, more importantly, what can we do about this? Again, sticking with Power BI. First one around that performance idea, right? Imagine instead of compromising on that data, picture your Power BI dashboards running fast with whatever data you need and want to work with that. And that's because you hear semantic model a lot out there, but they're not all alike. And what really sets Kyvos apart is delivering on the combination of performance at enterprise scale. Kyvos is going to deliver interactive speed to you, even on very deep, very wide data models, again, so you don't have to make that compromise. And those things are great, but also at the top of the list is cost control. Kyvos is going to help control costs both on the querying side and on ingest and refresh. Refreshes and queries that run long are also expensive refreshes and queries. And what we've done is we've patented the way that we aggregate, patented the way that we cache. And in doing that, we are controlling and managing the combinatorial explosion that comes from these enterprise size cases. And that explosion chokes, bogs down, completely kills a lot of semantic model tech that's out there. We have solved for that. And that's how we're delivering performance and the scale at levels that a lot of folks don't even think is possible, which we love when clients come in with that assumption and then we can show them something completely different. Probably my favorite part of the job for me. On the governance side, you're going to have that control because we're centralizing and curating all those metrics and the data. We want to have control over that as we're pushing it back out to the front ends. So row and column level security is there so that users see only the data that's relevant to them, only the data they should be seeing. These are very nice bullet points, but in the spirit of show me, don't tell me, let's talk about a couple of client stories here. The first one was is a retail analytics firm. They have a global presence. They're centralizing their multi-business unit model into more of a centralized model. And as part of that, they're going to have a centralized data and analytics function. And the platform is going to be supporting all their business units, all their brands going back out. And the plan was to do all this work. They did a ton of work to get data onto Databricks. The Power BI was the selected front end. And like kind of said at the top, hey, let's point our BI tools at the warehouse and get to work. And again, the challenge was, as we hear fairly often, where the performance just was not there, right? They needed to do some specific analysis for the way that they work, trend analysis and doing time intelligence. And time intelligence, think of things like year over year, year to date type work or type of calculations. And Power BI by itself, it can be pretty chatty. I'm sure everybody on this call that works in Power BI has seen that or has dealt with that. It's prone to send a lot of subqueries. And for the querying that they needed to do for this specific case, it was sending hundreds of subqueries. and it wasn't able to handle it. It's a big ask to make of Databricks or any cloud data warehouse, right? They workshopped it with Databricks. They workshopped it for weeks with Microsoft. And what Microsoft came back with was essentially, you're going to need to aggregate this up. You're going to have to make that compromise in order to get something that even approaches performance. Well, even with that recommendation, which they held their nose and tried it out, best they could get was 40-45 seconds as a baseline. And that was on a single region. We're talking about a global company. If the baseline on the most basic query is 45 seconds, that was going to be a non-starter. So they know they needed something else. But again, Power BI needed to stay in place. All that work to get Databricks in shape needed to stay in place. And that's where we came in, right? The main criteria, again, because of the challenges they were dealing with, job one was solve for performance. Job 1B was ease of use around model development. And the team that we were working with, they had a deep SSAS background. So they were very focused on how quickly can we build a model, how easy is it to manage? And with that SSAS background, they were able to build models after just one overview session. It was very intuitive for them. They picked it up. It's drag and drop, minimal coding, and they're off and running. So we won on model development and ease of use pretty quickly. And again, that included doing that time intelligence work, which is tough for a lot of different applications out there. So we were good to go. Everything's looking good. And then if somebody from the back of the room was like, well, let's talk about prod. I don't feel quite comfortable yet that this is, industrial strength. We did a 6 billion row stress test. I'm putting that in quotes because that's not much of a stress test for us. Those 40-second queries that we were just talking about became sub-second. So that's the type of order of magnitude and difference that we're able to deliver. And actually, this is a quote from one of the leads we were working with. They were also trying to look at some in-memory stuff because of the performance issues they had. And they said, you guys were as fast, if not better, than some of the in-memory solutions while running on disk. And they couldn't believe what they were seeing, right? I'll share one other one. This is a major retail bank. Similar kind of starting point. They're doing cloud modernization. As part of that, they wanted to move or sunset parts of Essbase. Did a lot of work, not Databricks this time, but moving over into Redshift. Again, they want to make use of that data. A ton of work had gone into getting it into the warehouse and all the data migration. So we need to find something that's going to complement the work that's been done, the investments that have already been made. And they didn't look at a dozen different options specific to this project, but that over time they had, mentioned that, hey, we've been looking at a lot of different things for a long time. And again, the starting point was the same. Let's take Power BI, let's point it directly at Redshift, and it just wasn't fast enough. On top of the performance, it had those gaps that I was talking about with the finance teams where they have a way that they need to work, and you can't power your way around that, right? You can't ramp up compute your way around that. So that was the challenge when we got into the discussion. And as we were talking with them, one of the finance leads said, look, if you can enable year-over-year view at a deposit and a loan level, that'd be a real eye-opener for us. So why would that be a real eye-opener? Well, it's because it hits on two things that we've touched on that are hard to do in general, but Kyvos makes easy. And that's the advanced hierarchy support. So when we talk about hierarchies and aggregations within Kyvos, and this is something really we want to make sure we get across, is we're not talking about losing visibility into that detailed grain. Kyvos will preserve that grain at whatever level you need to and make it performant. Right. The other piece of this eye opener there is that year-over-year view. So doing time intelligence with those complex hierarchies, that is a very high degree of difficulty for many, many other options that are out there. So not all semantic models are the same, not all semantic layers are the same. So once the banks saw what we could do on the hierarchy side, they were sitting up straight and locked in on what we were talking about. Once they saw the speed that they could get on top of that, we just the POC stopped and they said, this is what we need. This is what we've been looking for. We need to go get into prod. So a couple of real world examples where teams had been struggling for a while, trying to workshop, trying to make things work with what they had. And once we started working with them in very short order, we're able to quickly show them what was possible and then start to build out a fully baked solution for them here. So happy to take any questions on that at the end. Again, please use the chat as needed, but I'm going to turn it over to Pranay to give you that 10,000 foot view of the architecture, and then we'll move over to the demo. So Pranay, I'll turn it over to you.
Thanks, Matt. So on this slide, what you see is a multi-tier architecture of a modern analytics stack. The blocks highlighted with orange borders represent where Kyvos plays a critical role as an analytics platform. At the very top is your consumption layer, where users interact with data through their BI tools, their AI/ML platforms, and custom-built applications as well. Kyvos seamlessly integrates with all popular tools, which include Power BI, as you can see, Tableaus, Excels, and others as well. It also offers its own state-of-the-art BI and reporting suite, including a powerful Excel add-in for advanced large-scale Excel-based analytics. At the bottom, we have your raw data layer, massive data stored in data lakes, warehouses, which is then refined using ETL engines and placed into structured data warehouses. Kyvos' high-performance semantic layer sits right in between these layers, connecting effortlessly to data across lakes, warehouses, and external systems, allowing you to virtualize complex data structures without physically moving the data. In addition, Kyvos offers its own analytical storage engine, a highly optimized scalable store that intelligently handles both aggregated and non-aggregated data to deliver the sub-second query responses even on massive data sets. Connectivity-wise, Kyvos offers connectors, live connectors to all your tools. So you could use a SQL, a DAX, MDX. For AI, you could use AI apps, you could use LangChain, MCP, as well as API endpoints. From a security and governance perspective, organizations usually establish user provisioning and SSO systems with identity providers like Azure AD, Okta, or LDAP. So Kyvos integrates easily with all the major IDPs, ensuring secure, seamless access. On top of that, Kyvos strengthens data governance with its built-in service called Auth-K. Auth-K manages fine-grained security at the data access level, supports versioning of your data sets, and offers robust auditing and monitoring essential for maintaining compliance and ensuring complete visibility. In short, Kyvos embeds itself deeply into your modern data ecosystem, bridging lakes to dashboards while ensuring speed, security, scalability, and intelligence across the entire analytics journey. Okay, that's what I wanted to cover from a 10,000 feet level of an architecture, Matt. So with that, we can now segue into the demo. Okay, let me start by sharing my screen quickly. Okay, from a demonstration perspective, today I'm going to cover how the Kyvos semantic layer looks in Power BI, how it is visible within the application itself, and focus more on the speed and scalability aspect of it. So this is my Power BI app. It is currently connected to the Kyvos application. It's a live connection, and then I can see this semantic model that was defined in my Kyvos application. So here is my star schema benchmarking data set. It has about 31 billion records processed into the model, okay? And I have different dimensions, like a customer dimension, date dimension, So all of this has been designed within the Kyvos application, and this is the end view for the consumers. They don't have to model the data, again, work on creating the semantic model within the Power BI app. Let's start by a quick analysis of, let's say, across my regions, I want to be able to look at, let's do a stack chart. Okay, and how is my profit margins looking like? Let's increase this. Now I'm going to drill down into particular regions. So for example, I'm interested in America. So let's say drill down into America. What does this number look like at a country level information? So this is the power of the hierarchies that you have defined. You can easily drill down to the most granular level of information that you want to get into. So at a country level, I see United States having about 2.9 billion as the profit margin. Let's drill down further and take a look at the city level information. So now that we are at the city level, my highest margins is coming from New York. So let's keep only New York. Okay, include New York. And now I want to be able to split this profit margin across years. So let's bring in fiscal year, right? And I can see the trend starting from 2000, going up to 2016. How does this trend look like? Now, let's say I want to be able to filter this. So let's add a filter on this from a customer market segment. Okay. And let's just look at, for example, by market segment, I want to look at automobile sales. The numbers instantly change. So the idea here is to show you that you can get to the most granular information within your data. Okay. You can slice and dice the data that you want in Power BI and get sub-second responses on massive amounts of data. You're not restricted by either by the width of the data, the depth of the data. You can get your interactive speeds. Same way, you could create dashboards as well. So for example, I have created a sales performance dashboard here. And within this dashboard, I could easily click on a particular region or a market segment. So let's start, let's say, just looking at Asia, what are my numbers looking like? And instantly the entire dashboard refreshes, right? So you don't have to wait minutes or 30 plus seconds for every query to run in the background in Power BI. It is all automatically done at the Kyvos level. Okay. Let's say I want to do another analysis of just how does profit margins look like for Asia in the month of December. And you see the response that comes in, right? So that way you're able to do ad hoc analysis. You can create your reports, dashboards within Power BI, all powered by Kyvos. Now let me move into the Kyvos application and show you how that semantic model looks like. So this is the Kyvos application. I'm accessing it via web browser right now. And let me expand. This is the semantic model that we saw in Power BI. So here you have a semantic model as a module where we can see all the semantic models that have been designed and processed. And let me expand this. So you can see the customer dimension that we saw. It has a region, a country, a city level information defined here. It has customer market segment, same way for the date field, and all the KPIs that we want to analyze. So all your calculations or your KPIs that you want to use for your analytics can be defined here on the right-hand side of the canvas where we say measures. So you can clearly define your dimensions and measures within the application. Let me also cover one more thing, which is you don't have to believe what I say. I would just open up this model, show you that how much of the data we have. So let's say I go to the consolidated summary. And here on the screen, you can see the line order table, which is my fact table, has about 31 billion records processed, right? So really, at 31 billion records, you're seeing the performance that you saw in Power BI. That's the scale at which we operate. And this is not a single flattened table, which many of the tools tell you to do for performance gains. If I open the source for this, you would see different dimension tables, the fact table, everything. It's like a star schema. Okay, that's the data set that I've been using. So from a data modeling perspective, we give you drag and drop options. You can create your star schemas, your multi-fact schemas. All of that is supported within the application. All right. That's what I wanted to cover from a demonstration perspective as of today. We can open up for questions, Matt.
All right. I see one question in here from Vasu. Maybe before we get to that question, and D, if you see some others, just shout. But the focus today was Power BI. Under the Microsoft topic, sorry, I'm trying to get back a slide here and multitask. Every Power BI client we have also has a pocket of very strong and passionate Excel users, right? So with under the Microsoft umbrella, Excel, a lot of the capabilities we've talked about here, you're going to get by pointing Excel at Kyvos alongside Power BI. So if that's part of what you're trying to solve for, it's something to keep in mind as we talk through the Q&A here. So the first one I see is, can you speak a little bit more about the best practices to handling 6 billion rows in subseconds? And the best practices really is Kyvos, and I'm not being glib when I when I say that. We have 10 years of development and multiple patents that enable us to do this. So when I was talking about the way that we architect our stuff to handle combinatorial explosion, so that we can deliver the performance and scale combo, that's where it is. I mean, they don't even tell me what's behind the curtain and in the secret sauce, but that's the short answer. Pranay, I don't know if there's anything you would want to add to that.
No, I think you're good.
Okay. Data security handled, and then Andrew's got another one. Pranay, I don't know if you can see these two, but maybe you can take the second.
Let me take the next few. Yeah. So the
Okay.
data security within Kyvos is handled using rules that can be defined for column level as well as row level security. We also are able to inherit, if you have created AD groups and you have permissions at that level, we can inherit those as well. Semantic models will be hosted by Kyvos. The next question. Yes. So Kyvos hosts the semantic models. The Kyvos application can be, however, deployed within your VPC if need be, like within the customer's environment or their cloud, choice of cloud, or we can deploy Kyvos within the Kyvos cloud as well. So both options are available where you want to host Kyvos. What connector are you using for Power BI? We are using a SQL-based connector for Power BI. Is this semantic model only for Power BI or can be used by other BI tools? So once you define a semantic model in Kyvos, the concept is it is a universal semantic model. You can use it from any other BI tool like Tableau, MicroStrategy. You see the same model in Excel via a live connection. So it's universal, right? We don't restrict you to a particular BI tool.
Right. I mean, that's a core value prop of the semantic model, right? You can point it to whatever combination. And we're not really touching on Gen AI today, but we are pushing the semantic model out to LLM. So if you want to create your own conversational analytics Gen AI app, you can make the semantic model available to those. And we're seeing some very cool things with that, with some of our early clients that are starting to use their semantic model in that way. Let's see. Is this suitable for self-service? Absolutely. And that's, again, performance plus the business-friendly view of the data. The whole purpose of doing that is to enable self-service, right? Your P5 capacity piece, what may very well be possible is that you could go to a lower P level because you're taking the load off of Power BI, or Kyvos is handling the heavy lifting for you, which enables that performance even at higher concurrency levels. Pranay, I don't know if you have any specifics, but related to the P levels, but the concurrency is built to handle hundreds, if not thousands, of users if you need it. And then how
Yeah,
fast your incremental loads. Sorry, Pranay, go ahead.
yeah, I was going to say the same thing. We can go to the next one, the incremental loads.
Yeah, so this is scalable, controllable. We've just updated the way that we do this to make it even faster than it was before. So whatever your SLA is for your refresh, we have clients that they just run overnight. We have that do intraday, right? So we can scale up the ingest engine to meet whatever your SLA is. Let's see. Pranay, you want to take Jason's?
Yeah. If I understand correctly, the Kyvos semantic layer replaces the Power BI semantic model, and Power BI connects to the Kyvos semantic layer from direct query. Yes, that is correct.
Cool.
So we replace you don't have to do the modeling in Power BI, you do the modeling at the Kyvos layer. Okay. And then you just create a live connection from Power BI using the direct query option. That's correct.
Yep.
Matt, next one, license and users.
Yeah. So there's a couple of different ways we can do a pay-per-use model. If you're used to billing that way, that can work. But then we also have an annual license where we would determine how many Kyvos engines are needed to support your use case. We look at concurrency, the performance SLA you're looking at, the size, shape of the data, all that gets swizzled together, and you need 5 smalls or 10 large, right? We would figure that out with you. And then, that becomes a flat annual fee. There's no seat-based licensing for core Kyvos. It's, again, we size your cluster to support what you need to do. And then that's it. There's no, consumption-based fee that you're paying as you go for core Kyvos. Can we pull
I think
data?
the next one.
Yeah.
Can we pull data from different sources in one semantic model and join them? Yes, you can have connections to multiple data sources. So for example, you could have a connection to Snowflake and a connection to Redshift and join all of the both the tables coming from both of those warehouses within the Kyvos application. We can support that.
Cool.
Does Kyvos support row level security and report level user filtering of data? Okay. Yes, Kyvos supports row level security. We can define row level security within the application using your groups or users that you have created. And report level user filtering of data. I'm not quite sure what that means.
Well, the row level piece you could talk to for sure.
Yeah.
So row level, yeah, row and column level is supported. So Kyvos will respect whatever the security protocols are, coming in. So if Matt should only see, the US data for, product A, that's all I'm going to see. If, the C level wants to see everything, they'll see everything. You have control and flexibility to define that based on each user's login. All right, Pranay, go ahead. You want to take anonymous there?
Yeah. Okay. So yes, I was just Googling the report level user filtering of data. Yes. So we can support that as well. If the user has access to certain level of data, because we are importing all your users, we can configure the semantic model level that which user or which groups of users can see what level of data. So both column wise as well as row wise. Once you define that, they will only be able to see that level of data within those reports.
Yeah. Cool. Thanks, Brent.
What is the complexity level and effort required for semantic layer implementation using Kyvos? I would like to understand more from you, business user or self-serve capabilities perspective. Yeah, I mean, honestly, there is no complexity level as such. It's a simple intuitive UI where you drag and drop if you know your data, meaning your tables. Let's say you can create the semantic model within a few minutes. So it's pretty easy to use and navigate through. Okay, I would suggest.
Yeah, that's a deeper topic.
Yeah, I would suggest to do a one-on-one demo to show how easy it is to be, to just self-serve.
Right. Well,
create
and
more.
just to add to that, so self-serve, you've got the developer side, and then you've got end user side. So if we look at these sentences as separate things, the first one, the complexity level to implement a semantic layer. So when I was talking about the retail analytics client, right? Those guys were deep SSAS pros, right? So they were doing it literally same day, starting to develop. You can bring an existing model in, start from there. Very quick, short ramp up. The second sentence is once that team has done all that work and defined the model, we said, here are dimensions and measures. These are the metrics. We're controlling how we're defining what are the calculations behind those metrics. Done. Lock it down, push it out. Now to your second sentence. Now the self-serve for the end users, they just pick up and are looking at things in a very intuitive, business-friendly way, and they just start using dashboards, doing ad hoc queries, whatever they want to be doing based on what the developers had built very quickly in the first sentence. Again, it's very meaty topic, so happy to talk more kind of one-on-one. Refresh times on 32 billion. Again, it's nobody likes it when you say it depends, but again, it's not just a straight row count. It's how many fields are we bringing in? What SLA do you need? Because we're gonna, again, we can scale it up and we can run whatever number of engines we need to hit the SLA. So again, the headline there is we have the power and flexibility to scale up to meet the ingest window we're looking for.
One point I would just add, just because if somebody's asking for it, we can go as quick as processing about 1 million records in a minute, right? Or it can be more as well. So it really depends on what Matt said, the complexity, the incremental data that's coming in, the volume of the data, and how much infrastructure we want to throw at it.
Yeah, fair point. Just sticking with the refresh theme here. You define the frequency of the refresh. Like I mentioned earlier, we have clients that do intraday, and then there's ones that run overnight. And yes, you can do both schedule-based and event-based triggers on your refreshes. Pranay, anything you'd add to that?
No, I think you're good.
You want to have
yeah. The deployments, I would say we could do marketplace-based deployments. We can also do customized deployments if your cloud infrastructure team has defined security policies, and to accommodate those security policies, we could definitely do private image share, which can be deployed within your cloud environments. So those are just a couple of ways. The second part is we can host the Kyvos application. So if it is not within your VPC, Kyvos offers a Kyvos cloud option where we can definitely host the application and you don't have to worry about anything.
Yeah, cool. Pranay, if you can maybe take the RLS one, I'll take the creation of the data models. So the data models, it's up to your organization. Sometimes it's IT. We talk about the business contributing. It's totally up to you, right? We have very often it's both. The most successful implementations are when it's both, because the data domain experts are typically in the on the business side, or sitting at least closer to the business. So they come in, they say, here's how we want to define it. Here are the KPIs that are important. Here's the calculation we want to use. And then IT helps enable that, or data engineering. It really depends on how your org is structured. But yeah, that's completely up to your firm as to who's involved, who's at the table to define the model. But our best examples, it's certainly a partnership between them. Well, Pranay, I'm not sure about RLS. I don't know. Do you need a minute on that one? I can take the next one if needed to.
No, I'll take that. So if you've defined your, let me just first reiterate the question. We have RLS at database level with Snowflake. Is it supported? So if you've defined your row level security at the database level, we would need a way to map that within the Kyvos application. So it'll be basically either through APIs or some other way where we can get access to the Snowflake row level security and then map it into the Kyvos application. Okay.
Yeah, cool. Thanks, man. Have you migrated MicroStrategy or metadata semantic models in a Kyvos environment? Is it an easy lift and shift? Again, I'm an account guy, so I don't want to overstate it, but it's very similar to the SSAS example. Yes, we find our MicroStrategy clients find it very easy because they're used to working in that multidimensional model. So it's very easy for them to pick up and work. We've got a client in Canada that, again, very short ramp up, picked it up quickly. They brought their existing MicroStrategy work over, not starting from scratch. So similar to the Power BI, if you like Power BI, if you like the front end, but you want that more power on the back end and make it transparent for the end users, we can help on the MicroStrategy side as well. Kyvos creates cache. From what I understand, the next one, from what I understand, Kyvos creates caches and stores the data in its memory, which makes it fast in BI2. How long does it take to refresh caches? And also, what about if you want to use real-time data? So we are not dependent on memory or cache. We use it and take advantage of it where needed, but we're not dependent on it. Like the example I was mentioning earlier, where we were running on disk for that particular POC just to see what was possible, because they knew when they did add the cache in there, it was just going to be that much better. As far as refreshing the caches, it's Pranay, you want to? We don't really make that distinction. So, Pranay, I don't know if
it's the caches are refreshed as part of the incremental processing. Okay, so and it's a background process that happens. So your current data is accessible, and once the processing is complete, it automatically adds those newer aggregates into the cache.
Yep.
Okay, I think we've answered all the questions. One more thing that I want to cover, Matt, is it's very easy to migrate your Power BI semantic models to the Kyvos application. We actually have a utility that helps you automatically migrate models and create dashboards directly pointing to the Kyvos application. So that's something that our team has worked on, and you can leverage that to quickly move your models to the Kyvos app.
Cool. All right. Well, I think we may have set a record on Q&A section. So appreciate everyone's questions there. I'll give you folks another minute to see if any late breaking questions come in. But if not, yeah, we've got our QR codes up here. If you'd like to talk more, if any of this is resonating with what you're trying to get done or dealing with, we'd love to talk more and see where we might be able to help. With Kyvos, sorry, there's a late breaking question here. Provide the rendering time of the report. Live rendering time. Well, usually we're so fast that that's kind of a non-issue. If you're talking about, painting the dashboard, very chatty ones, yeah, you're kind of, sometimes you can be limited by the BI tool itself, but yeah, the speed of on the Kyvos end is going to be typically a fraction of rendering. I don't know, Pranay, anything you'd add on that one?
No, I think you're good.
Yeah. Okay. Well, again, appreciate everyone joining. Use that QR code there. If you don't have your phone handy, you can always go to kyvosinsights.com and we'll get you in touch with the right folks. And well, again, would love to help you on your Power BI journey. Have a great rest of the week. Thanks, everybody.